Hey guys, my name is Dalton Britt, and I have Chapter 10, which is using teams and organizations. Go to the next slide. First thing I need to talk about is the difference between teams and groups. Teams are sometimes used interchangeably with the term groups, and that's just simply untrue, especially in the workplace. Groups are two or more people who interact and influence each other, and that can be in many different ways, as we'll see later on in the presentation. Teams are groups made up of people with specific set of skills. This could be is a group of people who's going toward a common goal, and basically they're all focused on one common objective, and that's the biggest difference between a group and a team. If you go on to the next slide, the benefit of teams is that there's going to be an enhance in performance. It's going to be productivity, quality, service. When you have more than one brain working on something and you're all going to one goal, it's going to naturally increase the productivity and the quality because it's not all on one person's shoulders, it's on multiple people. There was also no directive culture in the classic hierarchy regime that most businesses have. When you're team focused, it increases creativity, innovation, and flexibility. There's also going to be reduced cost. Because of a team-focused organization, there's going to be less turnover. There's not going to be, okay, this person isn't doing a good job, we're going to fire that person and turn over this new term. That doesn't happen as much as in a team-focused society or organization because there's not going to be as many errors because there's going to be more of a checks and balances system within this team and within the organization. So that's going to really help because in business it's much cheaper to retain a current client or employee that rather than have to go sign a new one. And then the team focused of an organization is really going to help with that. There's also going to be employee benefits such as attitudes, respect, and self-worth. When you're not stressed out because everything's on your shoulders, it's going to increase your attitude about coming to work every day. You may team-focused organization may help you meet new people, and so that's really going to help you wanting to go to work and wanting to work hard because you're not just working for your boss. You now really feel like you're working for your organization and for the guy or girl next to you. If you go to the next slide, so there are going to be some negatives of teams. There's going to be a cost. The biggest cost that I found was that it's time. It's going to take time to get people to buy in because the world hasn't seen the use of teams like the 21st century. It's never really been like that. But it's really going to have a lot of time. You're going to need a lot of time to let people buy in. And also something that I really learned, I really never thought of this, is that sometimes managers are resistant to this because they feel like if we're in a team, a team strategy, what is my job? And basically they're going from a kind of a general kind of deal where everything goes through them to more of a facilitator. And a lot of managers don't like that. That's not how it always is in teams, but for the most part, a manager is more of a facilitator of different tasks, debates, and just disagreements on how to go about things. And the biggest thing that comes along with time is patience. You have to have patience whenever you're going to try something new, especially nowadays when everything's going so fast. When people see change, they go, okay, I don't want to spend all that time. So that's basically the biggest restraint that I found. And if you go to the next slide, there's multiple types of teams, and over the next couple of minutes we'll be talking about the different types of teams and when they're needed and why sometimes a certain situation needs a kind of team that another situation might not need. So if you go to the next one, the first kind is quality circles. A quality circle is basically a small group in a work area who can meet regularly. But the biggest thing that they're responsible for is to discuss solutions to different problems in the workplace. This is the first really, I guess you could say, industry-related team created in the United States. And what they do is they meet, they discuss a problem, and they make recommendations, and they may take it to the manager, who now is in a more of a facilitator's role, and they'll decide in the end what they're going to do with it. If you continue to the next slide, work teams is the next kind. They actually do the daily work. These are your nurses, your orderlies, and your various technicians in the United States, and this is a self-managing group. The biggest difference between them and anyone else is that they're not there to just discuss problems. They're actually there to do the work. If you go to the next slide, the next kind is problem-solving teams. These are temporary teams. After they solve a problem, the group is usually disbanded. They're no longer needed. They may meet up again later, but for that time period, they're disbanded. And this is about 91% of the United States companies use this regularly in their regular business lives. And like I said, after a problem is brought up, a manager may say, hey, you, and you get together. We're going to solve this problem. And then after the problem is over, that group may not meet anymore because that's all that team is there for, is to solve that problem. And they're usually made up of people from different areas. You could have different, in the hierarchy of business, you could have a guy up here, in the middle, and then down here, all working together to solve a problem. So there really isn't a class system for this. It's really just all hands on deck, solve the problem, and then the team is disbanded. If you go on to the next slide, the next kind is management team. These are the higher of the hierarchy. These are really there because somebody needs to coach and counsel and coordinate the work between different teams, and that's what the management team does. It's made up of different managers from all across the different areas. Go on to the next slide. It says next kind is the product development teams. These are a combination of work and problem-solving teams. What they do is they create products or services that are going to meet consumer demands. And like I said, these could be made up of, this is kind of a lot like a problem-solving team, and in that there isn't any hierarchical restraints on who could be involved with it. So, and after production starts of the product that they've come up with, the group is disbanded, or the team is disbanded, and they won't meet again until another product is brought up. A lot like a problem-solving team. Go to the next slide. The last kind is a virtual team, and these don't have a specific responsibility, but the biggest thing about a virtual team is that they never actually meet in the same room. Usually they'll meet in a teleconference or on a computer for a web chat, kind of like what we're doing right here for this class. But and a good example that the book gave for this is engineers all around the world sharing ideas, innovations, new inventions, anything that they feel like anyone in their system needs to know, have a teleconference about it, have a web chat about it. And that's really what a virtual team is. If you go to the next slide, like I said earlier, it's not always easy to implement new ideas. And the first thing you have to do is you have to establish leadership to kind of guide the new regime in there when you're changing anything in a business like this. And you have to prepare. You have to clarify what the mission is. You have to make it very clear to your employees and leadership what is about to happen and why. Because people nowadays want to know every reason for everything that goes on. You have to tell them why, and you have to plan. You have to draft it out. If you go to the next slide, these are the phases. You need a startup, you need reality, you need to realize that there's going to be unrest. Like I previously said, there's going to be people who don't want to do this because they don't see what it's going to do, so you need to help them see that. It needs to be leader-centered teams. There needs to be an established leader in these teams. The teams need to be tightly formed so they know exactly who they are and what their responsibilities are. And they need to be able to self-manage themselves. You can't have a person who has other responsibilities trying to worry about every single thing these teams do, so they need to be self-managing. Go to the next slide. You also need to promote success with these teams. There has to be top management support for these teams, or they're not going to last very long. There also needs to be an understanding throughout the organization of the time frames that are put into place with the planning. There's no reason in making a plan and then just to not follow it, nor have anyone understand what that means. And the biggest thing about the success of a team organization that is new to the whole thing is understanding the changing and the reward standards. It's no longer going to be a person-to-person deal. It could be a skill-based pay, which is pay based on skills rather than performance. So just because you sell more or do better as an individual, you may not always get paid more. It's based upon your skills. And in my field of advertising and public relations, you have to be good at graphic design, you have to be good at video shooting, editing, while also being good at the actual content of what you're doing. And so the more skills you have, the more you're going to get paid. And that's what a skill-based pay system is. In gain sharing, your reward is based on performance of the entire organization, which is a little different than team bonuses because it's the same premise except going to just the team's performance. And so my question for you guys is, A, what is your favorite kind of team to be a part of? And if you've never been part of any of these teams, give me a real-life example of one of these teams and then tell me why it worked. Thank you.